Hi guys, it's Don from farfar.org. In the last video we saw the Death Marshal take a shot at the Ashigaru missing, and the Ashigaru charge out into melee with the Death Marshal scoring a couple of hits, a couple of points of damage. So we're at the start of the turn, so I'm going to talk about the start of turn sequence. So the first thing the players do is they shuffle their cards. I've already shuffled these. The next thing to do then is they draw their hand. Because we're only playing with a couple of models, I'm going to keep to just hands of 3 cards. However, the ordinary hand, the normal hand, is 6 cards. So let's draw the hand for the Ashigaru. I'll swap the decks around so I don't get confused between the models. So I've drawn 3 cards there. So we've a 7 of crows, an 8 of crows, and a 12 of masks. So not a bad hand. So I'm going to pop them there. And 3 cards then just for the Death Marshal. Not as good, but not too bad. All rams, which are quite useful for the Death Marshal, a 12, a 5, and a 2. The next thing we do at the start of the turn is we flip for initiative. Both players flip a card off the top of their deck. The higher gets to choose to go first or second. So the Ashigaru is winning on this. He flipped an 11 versus the 6 of the Death Marshal. You cannot cheat this. However, if you have Soul Stones, you may decide to reflip. In this situation, even with Soul Stones, the Death Marshal's player probably wouldn't reflip because trying to flip an 11 or higher is pretty hard, and 11 would only cause us to draw and have to reflip again. So those cards go off into their respective discard piles, and the Ashigaru gets to activate first. Given that he's in melee with the Death Marshal, the sensible thing to do would be to try and press his advantage and do more damage to Death Marshal. So that's what he's going to do. He's going to hit him with a Rusted Yari melee attack. The melee value is 5. 5 and 7 is a 12 initial attack. The defense then on the Death Marshal is a 5 as well. So he's winning in the sense that the Death Marshal is not getting hit. The Ashigaru could try and cheat that up. I mean, he has got a higher card here. We're going to keep that card because I'm fearful of something that the Death Marshal might try in a moment. So that's that first action point of the Ashigaru used. And he's a couple of options now. He could either go into defensive stance, basically to try and defend himself. He'd have to discard a card to do that. Or he can try to continue attacking, and I think that's what he'll do. So again, a Rusted Yari strike. So 5 plus 2, not particularly useful. Death Marshal flips an 11. So in this option, the Ashigaru is missing in this situation. So it's a 16 total versus a 7 total. So chances are he might want to cheat that up to try and get something out of the activation. So he's losing the duel at the moment, so he's going to cheat 12 in. Because these are straight flips, they weren't negative flips, you can cheat in. So that now gives the Ashigaru a 17 total versus a 16 total. The Death Marshal could equal it, but he'd still get hit. So he's going to decide to hold on to his card. He's going to hold on to that good 12 in his hand. So it's a difference of 1, which means the Ashigaru would be on a negative flip, and because of the hard to wound rule of the Death Marshal, he's flipping not just 2 cards, but 3 cards and taking the lower. So 1, 2, 3, taking the lowest there is the 3, which is weak damage. Weak damage on the Yari is 2. So that's 2 more damage to the Death Marshal. He had taken 2 in the previous turn. He's taken 4 wounds of his 6. Now it's the Death Marshal's activation. The Ashigaru has used up his 2 APs. So the Death Marshal is not in melee range because he only has a melee range of 1. So he's going to try something a little bit different. He's going to move up, and rather than try and kill the Ashigaru, he's going to try and bury him. So there's a pine box rule here on the Death Marshal's card. And this is quite an interesting rule. The target number is a 10 of crows, and the resist of the opponent is against the opponent's willpower. And the willpower on an Ashigaru is 5, so it won't be easy. Now that the Death Marshal is in position, he's going to attempt a pine box. So he's going to attempt to bury the Ashigaru. So the attack action there on the card. So it's a casting attack, so CA5 with a crow built in. Target number is a 10 of crows, so he must at least get a 5 of some suit. And the resist will be against willpower. This is quite a long bit of text, but basically the target model is buried if he fails in this. And then in order to essentially become unburied, you must pass a willpower versus willpower duel. And that happens the next time this model activates. If the Death Marshal is killed, then the model will pop out anyway. So essentially he's trying to pull the Ashigaru into that magical coffin that he carries around with him. So let's attempt that. So first off, he's to attempt to cast it. So it's a casting of 5. He flips an 8. So that's a 13 total. So the Ashigaru's willpower is 5 also. He flips a 10, so that's a 15 total. The Death Marshal really wants to achieve this. So he's going to cheat his 12 in. He's now on a 17 total. Again, he had the suit built in, so that's okay. So the Ashigaru's are now out of options. He doesn't have a card high enough to cheat. So he's losing this duel, so he would then become buried. Buried means he's removed from the playing surface. So he would still get to activate, but essentially do nothing during his activations and following turns. So next time the Death Marshal activates, you'll have to attempt a willpower versus willpower duel to try and unbury. And the Death Marshal can only have one model buried at a time. So there you go, a slightly more complex activation using the hands this time to change the way fate worked out for the different models. And thanks for watching.